All right, so we are at the end of the podcast. Before we go, I have a question for you.
All right.
A common thing that's been happening in the games industry now, especially with live services and free to play games, is that games that were once supported and or once thriving are then shut down because the business side of the game just doesn't make sense. We've seen Nintendo do that recently with Dragalia Lost. We've seen other games like Here's the Storm going to development mode where they're not making new content for the game anymore, but they are allowing it to stay up just so people can play it. I guess the question I have for you, Zero, is what game that was discontinued or stopped being supported that hurt the most?
For me, it will always be Heroes of the Storm. Um, the initial, the initial life support announcement, a couple years back, that one had me in tears because just BlizzCon had just happened, and they had told a whole bunch of the esports team, oh yeah, we've got a new tournament series going up. It's gonna be great. We'll let you know as soon as possible so you can get your esports team set up. The esports division was starting to talk to major universities that participated in the Heroes of the Dorm tournament to start, potentially organizing gaming groups to basically filter out who would be the team that would represent their universities and everything. So the groundwork was laid out. The esports scene had been exciting, and this was right after a local university to me had won the Heroes of the Dorm tournament. So for me, just I was just like, all right, just we got a potentially interesting esports season going on. There's a bunch of uh, support going on for the game. Uh, Everything seems like it's going to go up, and then all of a sudden, just it was like the rug was pulled out from under everyone who was a fan of Heroes of the Storm. Of hey, so due to business reasons and profitability, we're rolling back the support to just being something more on the lines of life support. Yeah, we might develop new characters, we might not, but mostly we're just going to focus on making sure the game is operable. Don't have high hopes for the game because we're just going to have to roll it back. Oh, P.S. We were artificially inflating the esports scene, so that's part of the reason why we lost so much money.
Mm.
So that had been sort of the status of Heroes of the Storm for the longest while. It's just going to be life support. And then it wasn't until earlier this year Blizzard finally just ripped the bandage off and just said, "All right, so the game is no longer going to be in life support mode. It's just going to be in skeleton crew mode. Just we're going to have the game operable for a bit. There will be confirmed no new characters. We're just going to focus on bug fixes and fixing any potential exploits that might crop up. But yeah, do not expect anything major to come out of this. This game is basically done. Don't expect us to do anything interesting with the game. Just if you want to play it, come on down, download the client, and log in and play. But do not expect us to do anything major with this. Don't expect a resurgence of the esports scene from us directly. But yeah, just that's all we have to say. The minute that they made that announcement, I remember just crying about it for a good while because just even though I haven't really played Heroes of the Storm in several years now, I quite love the game. Just
Yeah.
it was fun. It didn't seem as high pressure as something like Dota or League of Legends, and generally, for the most part, it fostered the spirit of cooperation between your own teammates and everything. Unlike a lot of the toxicity I got from being a very low skill player in stuff like Dota and League of Legends, with someone going, "Oh my God, quit feeding, quit feeding! Oh my God, you suck! Go drink a bottle of bleach and die!" And because I was maybe playing a character I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
But whereas Heroes of the Storm, if your team makes headway, everyone levels up. There wasn't like a focus on just you know you needing to do your best on the team or else. Granted, if you were doing really stupid things, yeah, you could end up feeding the enemy, but typically you would have to be just an extremely bad player to do that. And even then, most of the players that I had met on Heroes of the Storm had generally been pretty nice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've heard that the population has gone the other way, unfortunately. So there are more toxic players now, which is a bit sad to hear, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be the game that has absolutely saddened me the most with being discontinued.
The one that's hurt me the most just was announced, and it's Gwent. CD Projekt Red announced that they're going to do more cards and updates for 2023, but it's ending the following year. And Gwent is a game that I got really into during its closed beta. And up until just recently, I've always gone back to playing the game and really enjoying it. Especially when Rogue Mage came out recently. I got right back into Gwent again. And I was, oh god, it was like an old sweater. It's like, oh, feels great to play this again. I'm not surprised that it's ending, because CD Projekt Red has been trying to bolster the game by releasing single-player versions of the game itself in Thronebreaker and Rogue Mage. Both very good games. After that, it didn't seem to catch on, even though it had a dedicated fan base that definitely enjoyed the game. Even so, like I've never had an issue getting into the game and finding people to play against. I honestly have never had that issue. But it was starting to become clear that they were slowing down on updates, and they were doing more bug fixes and balance updates than doing more stuff to the game, which was fine, I guess. But yeah, it was clear they were slowing down on that. Before Gwent, I don't know if you've heard of this, but have you heard of Chronicle RuneScape Legends?
Yes.
Okay. When I got my PC back in Texas, after I got my apartment in Texas, I played this game, and I was like, this is awesome. This is a cool game. And I played it nonstop for about a month. And then they announced they're shutting it down. It was like, oh, crap. And thank God I didn't spend any money on it. But that was a very interesting game. But yeah, Gwent will probably be the one game where, when it comes to like an ongoing game, when it shuts down, like, I'm gonna be pretty sad, because I'm like, man, I spent a lot of time in that game. And Gwent is, I think, part of the reason why Gwent failed, or it didn't fail, it succeeded, but it's not going to last very long. Gwent's a very generous game. You don't have to spend much money to play it. You can just play the game, earn currency, earn stuff in the game, and you don't have to spend much money to get stuff in it. Like, you really don't, which is great for the player. But I always wondered what they were going to do when it comes to getting people to purchase stuff in the game, because they were so generous that it wasn't necessary. Now, I spent money in the game just to support the game because I liked it, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll spend $5 on a skin or a card back, whatever, fine. But I don't think there's a lot of people like me out there. So I think the failure of CD Projekt Red, and this is gonna probably anger some people, is that they were too generous. They definitely wanted to make their base happy, but they didn't monetize them enough. And I think that ends up killing them in the long run. Whereas I think Hearthstone was before Gwent, and Hearthstone's still going, and they seem to have that down right. But Gwent, I know some people weren't happy with what they did in Homecoming, but I'm always going to be a fan of Gwent. I think Gwent is a fantastic game, so much fun, and I will go back. I will probably still be playing it when it officially is ceasing development. And after that, we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be sad when that goes. So Gwent would be my game.
Gwent has had a bit of an interesting history, just from starting off as a side game in Witcher 3 to becoming its own full-fledged game, and it's really quite interesting.
And what's interesting with me about it is I've never played Witcher 3. I never played it. I haven't touched it. And I got into it because I really wanted to get into a card game, and Chronicle was shutting down, and Hearthstone really wasn't doing it for me, and I did not want to go into Magic again. So I was like, what am I going to play? And I was like, I'll try out this Gwent, I guess. And I got into the closed beta, and I loved it. And I mean, I loved it, dude. I played it every day for years in the closed beta. Like, years. I had so much fun playing that game. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised it's done. I'm not surprised by it. I'm actually a bit surprised they supported it as long as they did. On the other hand, it's still going to be around. So all the things I bought will still be there. But for how long, I'm not entirely sure. But I will still be playing it from time to time. But I have other card games I can play too. So it's not going to be a big hole, but it's going to suck when it finally goes. Thank you for listening to this podcast segment. The Capital Games podcast is done every week, and we post it on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as segments on YouTube. If you want to listen to another segment, you can listen to a new one right there on the screen. We also do a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club. If you'd like, you can go ahead and click on that and see all the movies that we have reviewed from that point. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon.